My wife Gillian and I went to a movie last week, The Empire of Light. How many of you have seen The Empire of Light? Oh, some of you have. A beautiful film about light and darkness in our personal, social, psychological and political lives. The projectionist in the film explains how the projector works to one of the new workers. He says, light is shone on still photograph frames moving at 24 frames per second, which creates the illusion of motion, an illusion of life. You don't see the darkness is out there, but without the light, you'd see nothing. That's a profound statement about life and the importance of life, light. Without light, you'd see nothing. Jesus is the light of the world. That's our faith statement. That's what the scriptures say to us. We all know that light dispels darkness. Light a candle in a very dark room, and it's amazing how much you see from that one candle flame. The letter to the Ephesians describes the followers of Christ as children of light. The Bible often describes God's people as children of light. What does that mean for us today? Are we light shining on the still dark frames of life, dispelling the darkness and providing life and light to the world? Is that what we are doing? That is the commission God has given the followers of Jesus. Live as children of light. Our readings focus on the themes of blindness and light. The John reading, which I shortened, tells the story about a man born blind who regains his sight after Jesus ministered to him. The 41 verses are packed with issues that cover the relationship of illness and sin, physical and spiritual blindness, and how values affect the way we see things. It's worthwhile reading that slowly through and pondering that text. Jesus in John chapter 1 verse 4 is described as the light of the world. Jesus was the light of the world to the man born blind, to the woman with an endless menstrual flow, to the woman who washed his feet with her tears, to the Samaritan woman, and to countless people who heard and still hear his comforting words of inspiration and acceptance. Jesus was the light of the world by challenging Nicodemus, the young lawyer searching for truth, and many others. Jesus was the light of the world to those male and female disciples and the lepers and the outcasts of society who found acceptance in his love, such as the tax collector Zacchaeus. Jesus' words of challenge about untruth, hypocrisy and prejudice and honest transactions all point to the living out the truth about bringing light in the darkness. Parables such as the Good Samaritan show us how to live and be light in the world. The Good Samaritan was the light to the man set upon by robbers. My Christian friends, your smile to the stranger in the street brightens their life, lightens their life. This story of the man born blind addresses several things. In this account of the healing of the blind man, Jesus rejects any notion that physical disabilities are related to sin. Jesus confronts the prejudice that blinds one to the goodness of the deed. The religious leaders couldn't accept the healing powers of Jesus, who didn't quite fit into their way of doing things, even when the evidence was there. They were blinded by their views of what was right. In this case, healing on the Sabbath was not right to them. Ironically, the man born blind, tells the sighted Pharisees that they are blind to the truth that this Jesus must be for God. Because for who else could heal his blindness but God? So in this story, the seeing become blind and the blind become sighted. We're talking about the relation of spiritual and physical blindness. And these truths are eternally relevant to us in the 21st century. You see, those Jewish Pharisees had a view that on the Sabbath you didn't work. Healing was work. Jesus healed on the Sabbath. He could not be of God. That rigidness blinded them to God working. What is blinding us from seeing God more clearly today? What is blinding us from seeing God more clearly today? I want to suggest both our rationalism that reduces everything to reasonable evidence, as well as a literal reading of the Bible impairs our understanding of God. Rationalism reduces God to our reasoning, and literalism prevents us with wrestling with God. Whenever we approach God with our set notions of what is true, whether rationalism or literal interpretations, we risk the possibility of not seeing God, because God will be present in the counterintuitive things that ignore our requests for truth on our terms. Yes, I do. I put the arch-rationalist and the arch-literal fundamentalist on the same continuum of truth and knowledge, but at opposite ends. Rationalism and literalism are cousins when it comes to reading the Bible. Both confine our hearing to prescriptive views of truth. Our prejudices, our cultural clutter that blinds us to spiritual matters, and our pride and arrogance will be changed when we turn and humbly look to God. The writer of Ephesians recognizes this when he said, "For once you were darkness, but now in the Lord you are light." Once you were darkness, but now in the Lord you are light. Let us ponder for a moment what this darkness is. It is easy to say darkness is the opposite of light, but that's not enough. The paradox with darkness is that we don't see it. Paul tells us that the fruit of the light is found in all that is good and right and true. The fruit of darkness is destructive, whereas the fruit of light is constructive. The fruit of light will want to show others the good path, to build them up and encourage and give them hope. The fruit of darkness looks to self first and cares very little about others. It talks unkindly about others and sees the negative. Whenever our conversation about others is negative and unhelpful, we have switched off the light. Idle gossip and sharing in negativity all are part of darkness. The fruit of light involves truth-telling rather than careless words that mask or mislead the truth. The writer says to us, "Try to find out what is pleasing to the Lord. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. Where the light of God falls, the darkness is dispelled, and the true nature of things are seen." It is not easy to walk in the light. Our culture works against us. Within their Australian culture, and certainly within the Uniting Church, there is a culture of niceness. Niceness seems more important than exposing the wrong. Our culture seems to have great difficulty with the whistleblower. We want the truth to be uncovered, but we don't really like the whistleblower. And that has always confused me as a migrant to this country and an Australian by choice. Another example is the conversation about the voice for Indigenous people. Those people that oppose it argue that it adds a fourth arm to Parliament or gives Indigenous people special status above others. Australia's leading constitutional legal KC, Brett Walker, rejects such opinions. The voice will not give the Indigenous people the power to legislate, administer, nor adjudicate the law. That is what the government does. Effectively, the voice provides a platform for influence, in other words, a platform to lobby, and we already have many lobby groups and some very well-resourced lobby groups. So what's the problem? We can see from this biblical story, we can see that both at a personal and a political level, we need conversations that are good, right, and true. Christians are called to be children of light. We are urged to live as children of light. That means we will shine God's light and we will try to find out what is pleasing to the Lord. So take no part in unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them, says Paul. Friends, let us help each other. Let us help each other to live as children of light.